You are too deep for most people. And I need you to hear that not as a compliment, but as a diagnosis, because it explains everything, every friendship that faded without explanation, every relationship where they said you were too intense or too much or too in your head, every room you walked into where you felt like you were speaking a language nobody else could hear. Your depth is not a personality trait, it's a frequency. And most people are not tuned to receive it. They pick up fragments enough to know something about you is different, enough to feel slightly unsettled in your presence, enough to lean in for a moment before pulling back. Because what they found beneath the surface was not a shallow pool they could wade through comfortably. It was an ocean. And oceans terrify people who only know how to swim in puddles. Okay, so I literally had to stop what I was doing to record this because the energy on this one is not playing around. I'm Stella Love Tarot with Stella. Subscribe if you're new because we stay busy around here. Real quick, only take what resonates, leave what doesn't. You know how we do. Now let me get into this because, oh my gosh, I have been waiting to tell somebody this all day. Let me describe what I mean by depth because you've probably been told your whole life that you think too much or feel too much, and you've internalized that as a flaw. It's not a flaw. Here's what depth actually looks like in you. You don't have surface level conversations, not because you're pretentious, but because small talk physically drains you. You can do it. You've learned to perform it. But when someone asks you how your weekend was and expects good, and you want to tell them about the 3-hour thought spiral you had while staring at the ceiling about whether you're living the right life, that gap between what's expected and what's real exhausts you every single day. You process the world at a resolution that most people don't operate at. You notice things, the micro expression that crossed someone's face for a quarter second before they caught it, the shift in someone's voice when they say a name they're not over, the way a room changes when someone walks in carrying unspoken grief. You absorb information about the emotional landscape of every space you enter, and you do it automatically, not by choice. Your system is wired to receive at that frequency, and there is no off switch. And here's the cost, because there is always a cost. Your depth means you experience loneliness at a level most people cannot imagine. Not the loneliness of being alone, you're often fine alone. The loneliness of being surrounded by people and knowing that not a single one of them is meeting you at the depth where you actually live. You've sat in rooms full of friends, full of family, full of people who genuinely love you and felt utterly alone because the conversation is happening at the surface and you exist 3 floors below it. You laugh at the right moments. You contribute the appropriate responses. You perform the version of social connection that the room requires. And the entire time, the real you is sitting in the basement of your own mind, aching for someone, just one person, to take the elevator down and find you where you actually are. And the cruelest part is that you can't even explain this loneliness to the people causing it because they'd be hurt. They'd say, but I'm right here. I love you. We just spent 3 hours together. And they'd be right. By every observable metric, you are surrounded and loved. But metrics don't measure depth. Numbers don't capture the difference between being accompanied and being met. You can be surrounded by 100 people who know your name, your birthday, your favorite food, the sound of your laugh, and not a single one of them knows the thought that kept you awake at 4 a.m. Not one of them has ever seen the version of you that exists when the social software shuts down and the real operating system runs. That version, the raw, unedited, painfully honest, gloriously weird, terrifyingly deep version, has been living in solitary confinement your entire adult life, and it is so tired of being alone. That's why shallow people can't stay. I need to say this directly because you've been blaming yourself. Every time someone pulled away from you, every time they got close enough to sense your depth and then retreated, you told yourself it was your fault. You were too intense, too serious, too emotional, too analytical, to honest, to something, and you adjusted, you lightened yourself, you learned to keep the heavy thoughts inside and present the airy version. You trained yourself to match the depth of whatever room you were in instead of pulling the room down to yours. And it worked on the surface. People stayed longer, but they stayed for the character, not the person. And you knew the difference even if they didn't. You could feel the gap between who they thought they loved and who you actually were growing wider with every conversation where you held back the real thought, the real question, the real observation that would have changed the entire trajectory of the exchange if you'd had the courage to say it out loud. And the pattern was always the same. They'd get close, close enough to feel the warmth of you, the kindness, the easy surface that you learned to maintain so well, and they'd settle in. They'd get comfortable with the version of you that asked light questions and laughed at easy jokes and never dragged the conversation into territory that required actual thought. And for a while, it would work. For a while, you'd convince yourself that maybe this time you could live at the surface and be happy there. Maybe depth is overrated. Maybe simple is better. Maybe you're the problem and everyone else has figured out how to just enjoy things without dissecting them. And then one night, there's always a night the real you would slip. You'd say the thing you'd been holding back. You'd ask the question that lived 3 levels below the conversation. You'd share a thought so honest and so layered that the room went quiet. Not because it was offensive, because it was deep. And you'd watch their face change, not to anger, not to disgust, to distance. That specific micro expression of someone recalibrating who they thought you were, their eyes would shift from, I know this person to, I'm not sure I know this person. And in that fraction of a second, you'd feel the connection begin to die. Not dramatically, just the slow, unmistakable withdrawal of someone who got a glimpse of the ocean and decided they preferred the pool. That happened enough times that you stopped slipping, you got better at the performance, you sealed the trapdoor to your depth and stood on it and smiled, and part of you died every time you chose the surface to keep someone close. A specific, nameable part, the part that believes someone could love all of you, not just the manageable parts. I keep getting the number 12 around you. 12 is the number of completed cycles and spiritual transcendence. It means you are at the end of a massive cycle of dimming yourself to make other people comfortable and the beginning of a cycle where your full depth becomes your greatest asset rather than your greatest liability. The people who left because of your depth were not your people. They were placeholders, practice rounds, and the fact that they're gone, even though they're leaving hurt, is the thing that created space for who's coming. I'm picking up the initials Z or E connected to someone drawn to your depth. And for some of you, it's a Q or an N. If those initials mean something, drop them in the comments right now. Now let me tell you about the extraordinary souls your depth attracts. Because while shallow people are running from you, there is a very specific type of person who is running toward you with a desperation that would alarm them if they stopped to examine it. These are the other deep ones. The people who have been living in their own basements, waiting for someone else's elevator to arrive. The ones who have also sat in crowded rooms, feeling invisible in the most populated sense of the word. The ones who have also been told they're too much, too intense, too serious, and have spent their whole lives scanning every face they meet for the one that finally says not too much, just enough, exactly enough, finally. And when these people find you, when two deep souls collide, the connection is unlike anything either of you has experienced with anyone else. The conversations last hours and feel like minutes. The silences are full instead of awkward. The topics go places that neither of you has ever gone with another human being, not because you planned it, but because the depth finds its own level, like water. You say something you've never said out loud, and instead of the blank stare you're used to, you get a nod. Not a polite nod, a recognition nod. The nod that says, I've been carrying that exact same thought, and I didn't know anyone else had it. That nod is the most intoxicating thing a deep soul can receive. More than love, more than desire. Recognition. Proof that you are not alone in the basement. Proof that the frequency you've been broadcasting into the void is not going unheard. Someone else's radio was tuned to you this entire time. They just hadn't found you yet. Um, I'm getting strong Scorpio and Pisces energy around these extraordinary souls being drawn to you, and some of you carry heavy Aquarius or Capricorn energy yourselves, deep water and high altitude. You feel everything and show almost nothing. The souls finding you now carry complementary depth. Some are emotional oceans like you, others are intellectual mountains. But the common thread is that they process the world at the same resolution you do. They notice what you notice. They ache about what you ache about. They lie awake thinking about the things that keep you up. And for the first time in your life, you won't have to explain why something matters to you. They'll already know, because it matters to them too. For some of you, I'm picking up physical impressions about the specific extraordinary soul heading toward you. Someone with eyes that are almost uncomfortably perceptive, the kind that make you feel seen in a way that's simultaneously thrilling and terrifying because you're not used to someone looking at you and actually arriving at you instead of stopping at the surface. For others, it's someone quieter in their appearance, unassuming, easy to overlook in a crowd, the kind of person you'd walk past 100 times until the moment your eyes meet, and something electric runs through both of you, like a recognition signal firing across lifetimes. Something about their mouth, expressive, the kind that communicates volumes in the space between words. Hands that move thoughtfully. A stillness to their body that matches yours. Two people who learned young that the world is too loud and responded by becoming very, very quiet. And there's something about the way this person smells, not cologne or perfume, but their actual scent, the one underneath. When you get close enough to catch it, something in your nervous system is going to unlock a recognition so deep it bypasses language entirely. Your body is going to know this person before your mind catches up. They've been carrying a nameless ache for years, not heartbreak, not loneliness exactly, but a kind of homesickness for a person they'd never met. And when they find you and the frequency finally locks, that ache is going to dissolve so fast it leaves them dizzy because you were what they were homesick for. Not a place, a person, you. Now let me tell you what this person feels when they're near you, because it is not what you expect. The first thing they feel is relief. Pure, physical, overwhelming relief, like they've been holding their breath inside every interaction they've had for years, and being near you is the first full exhale. They don't have to translate themselves for you. They don't have to simplify their thoughts or lighten their tone or pretend the small thing is enough when they want the everything thing. With you, they can bring the full weight of who they are and set it down on the table between you and watch you look at it, really look at it, all of it, the beautiful parts and the ugly parts and the complicated parts, without flinching, without changing the subject, without that specific expression people make when they've gone deeper than they bargained for and want to retreat to the shallow end. And the attraction, I need to be direct about this. What this person feels for you physically is completely entangled with what they feel for you intellectually. They cannot separate the two, and they don't want to. Your mind turns them on, the way you think, the way you question, the way you refuse to accept the easy answer when the real answer is sitting right beneath it. That mental fearlessness does something to their body that no amount of surface level beauty ever could. They imagine conversations with you that turn into something else entirely, not because the conversation wasn't enough, but because at a certain depth of emotional honesty, language stops being adequate and the body takes over as the only remaining medium of expression. They imagine a moment where you've both gone so deep in a conversation that words run out and the only honest thing left is proximity, closing the distance, letting the bodies communicate what the mind's just exhausted. That transition from intellectual depth to physical closeness is the most sacred thing they've ever imagined, and they want it with you specifically because you're the only person who could get them there. Everyone else runs out of depth too early. You never do. They imagine lying next to you in the dark and talking about the things that terrify you, not performing vulnerability, actually being terrified in real time and letting someone see it. They imagine you telling them the thought you've never told anyone, the really dark one, the really weird one, the one that lives in the deepest part of your mind that you've never shown another human being because you were certain it would make them leave. And they imagine hearing it and moving closer instead of pulling away. Not because the thought doesn't scare them, but because anyone willing to carry that alone for that long deserves someone who's willing to carry it with them. The jealousy is here, and it's different from any other reading. This person doesn't get jealous of who else you're sleeping with or dating or talking to. They get jealous of who else you're being deep with. When they see you in a real conversation with someone else, when they see your eyes lock and your body lean in and they recognize the energy of two deep people finding each other, they feel a possessiveness that has nothing to do with romance and everything to do with exclusivity. They want to be your deepest, not your only. They're not delusional, but your deepest. The person you go to with a thought that goes one floor below where you go with everyone else, the basement beneath the basement, the depth beneath the depth, the place where even your closest friends have never been. That's where they want to live. And the idea that someone else might already be there or might get there first makes something in their chest tighten with an urgency that keeps them awake at night. I keep getting the number 2 pulsing through this reading. 2 is the mirror, the recognition of self in another. It means what's coming is not just a connection, but a reflection, someone who shows you parts of yourself you couldn't see because you were too close to the mirror. 2 is also partnership at the deepest level. Not the partnership of shared responsibilities or complementary skills, the partnership of shared frequency. 2 radios finally tuned to the same station after years of static. If this is hitting you right now, drop the words deep soul in the comments. Like this video and subscribe because what happens in this community is different from anything else on this platform and I need your energy in here. Now, I need to tell you what's shifting in your external world because of this depth becoming visible. Something is opening in your career or creative life that is directly connected to the thing about you that used to be a liability. Your depth, the same depth that made you too much for shallow people, is now becoming the exact quality that a specific opportunity requires, a creative project that needs your level of perception, a role that requires someone who can read rooms, understand unspoken dynamics, hold complexity without simplifying it prematurely, a financial opportunity connected to work that is only possible at the depth you naturally operate at. I keep getting the number 8, abundance flowing toward what's authentic. The world is finally paying market rate for the thing you've been giving away for free your entire life, your ability to go deep. Now let me bring this home because I need to say something to the version of you that's been hiding, the version that learned to present the shallow edit so the world would stop backing away. The version that dims the real thought, buries the real question, holds back the real response because experience taught you that full depth costs you people. That version kept you alive. It got you through school, through jobs, through friendships that required you to be less than you are. And I'm not going to dishonor it by telling you it was wrong. It was survival. But survival mode has an expiration date, and yours just passed. What's opening now, the soul's arriving, the opportunities forming, the love approaching. None of it is accessible from the shallow end. None of it responds to the dimmed version. What's coming requires the full frequency, the unedited depth, the thoughts you've been swallowing, the questions you've been suppressing, the observations you've been silencing because the last time you shared one at full intensity, someone looked at you like you'd spoken in a foreign language. That foreign language is about to become the native tongue of your next chapter, and the people entering that chapter are already fluent. You are not too much. You are in the wrong rooms. The right rooms are opening now, and the people inside them have been waiting for exactly your frequency their entire lives. And when you walk into those rooms, and you will, sooner than you think something is going to happen that you've never experienced, you're going to say the real thought, the deep one, the one you've been holding behind your teeth for years because every previous room punished you for it. And instead of silence, instead of the distance, instead of the micro expression of someone recalibrating, you're going to hear the most beautiful sound a deep soul can hear. You're going to hear someone say, "Keep going. Tell me more. I want to hear the rest of that thought." And in that moment, something that's been clenched inside you for as long as you can remember is going to release, and you're going to cry. Not because you're sad, because you're finally speaking your first language in a room full of native speakers. And the relief of that, the sheer physical, overwhelming relief of not having to translate yourself anymore, is going to feel like the first real breath you've taken in years. Okay, I need you to go receive this now. Stop overthinking it. Stop talking yourself out of it. This is coming for you, and you deserve it, period. If this hit, like this video right now, share it with your person, subscribe, because I am literally always in here dropping something, and comment below because I read every single one and I want to know who this is about. Okay, go. I love you. Bye.